Welcome. For those that don't know me, I'm Dylan. I'm the Managing Director at Sport Industry Group. Welcome to our office and thanks for coming to this event. It's that time of year again. The entries are open for the Sport Industry Awards, which is always a very exciting time for us. It's an especially exciting time for us because next year is actually our 25th anniversary. Out of interest, was anybody there at the very first Sport Industry Awards? Nick, that's cheating. That's not allowed. Of course, you were there. I didn't think there would be, but I thought, you never know, I thought I would check. But yeah, look, it's a special year for us next year. We'll be celebrating in style at the big night itself in April next year, and there'll be a few things we'll be doing to pay a nod to that 25th anniversary in the lead up to the event as well, so do keep an eye out for that. I've got to say as well, it's an absolute privilege for us to be hosting the awards every single year. We get to see the amazing work that's done across the entire industry. Loads of great creativity, lots of really heartwarming, inspirational work that we get to oversee. And I guess, you know, we as an industry should be really proud of the work that we produce. I've got to say, one of the things that I've sort of noticed the last couple of years, that is definitely the value of winning an award has definitely increased. It's never been as high as it is today. We get loads of companies telling us that, you know, winning a Sport Industry Award was a significant milestone for them in their sort of development as a business. And even individuals come up and tell us that even them being recognised on the big stage at the, you know, the biggest night in the industry in front of their peers, you know, that is a significant step for them in their own personal career. So, you know, best of luck to all of you. Thanks for coming today. And hopefully you will learn something from the next 30, 40 minutes or so. So the format for today is we're going to go through each of the categories and I'm going to pick out a couple of bits from each of them that might be helpful for you in the criteria. If you have any questions at all, feel free to jump out whilst I'm talking about the specific category. We're happy to keep it quite sort of laid back and conversational. There will be questions at the end as well if you wanted to wait towards the end. We'll also give you a few best practices for the entry form itself. Those of you that have filled out an entry form, you know, it's a process, but also it's an artwork. You know, we see so many of them and we've got a pretty good handle on, you know, what works, what doesn't work, what the judges want to see, what the judges don't want to see. So we'll tell you a little bit about those later on. And we'll also take you through a bit of the judging process as well. So again, if you've got any questions, feel free to jump out whenever you have them, or you can wait to the end. But before we get to that, we're going to look back at this year's Sport Industry Awards, so the 2025 version back in May of this year. Quick show of hands, who was there this year? Quite a few people, yeah. If you weren't there and if you haven't been before, then this is what went down.
And it's a very warm welcome to the FIBO Sport Industry Awards 2025, everybody.
I just get the buzz of the excitement, the people that you meet, the celebrations that I had.
It's just every year it gets bigger and bigger.
You know, sport is my heritage, it's in my DNA, so celebrating as a whole tonight is going to be incredible.
I'm going to have a good time. I hope everybody else is too.
Sport is one of the few things that is emotionally connected to every community in the country, and it creates our role models that are leaders, and that is the power of sport, and we intend to harness it.
It's just such a huge honour and I'm so very grateful and thankful for receiving it tonight.
Sport brings people together, it brings humanity together. So to be in this room today to receive this award, this is an amazing team that we have.
We couldn't be prouder. We're working on brands that we couldn't have dreamt of as kids, so we're very grateful.
It's just the beginning, by the way, just the beginning, just say it.
Brings back good memories, also a few stressful memories as well that we've got to do it all again next year. The trophies are on display here. Rest assured, if you do win one, they'll be a lot shinier than these ones. These have been in our office for a few years. So, Anyway, we'll get to it. These are the first few categories I'm going to be talking about. The first one is Agency of the Year. I think it's fairly self-explanatory, like what kind of companies should be entering this. So the format is, I'm not going to go through all of these. Obviously, you can read these yourself, and the full criteria is on our website as well if you want to go through it. But I'm just going to pull out a few nuggets. What I would say for the Agency of the Year is, on the financial information, to be as transparent and I'd say accurate as possible. A few years ago, we used to have an open text box for the financial information, and people used to write nice little fluffy sentences to try and, hide this, hide that, a bit of smoke and mirrors, and that just doesn't go down well with the judges. The judges have been in your shoes. They're experienced people from the industry. Don't try and kid them, because that doesn't go down well. We've asked for just simple numbers this year. So top line revenue, net profit, just in a box, put the numbers in there. Then there is an additional comments box to add some context. If you can't give your numbers for any particular reason, please give the context as to why, and it needs to be a good reason. And then try to give us some element of indication of your performance as an organisation for that year. But I guess the key thing there is just be honest and transparent, and then add any context in the additional comments section. Specialist Agency of the Year, I guess the same applies in terms of, it's the same form essentially, the same applies in terms of the actual transparency and the number side of things. But this is specific to an agency that specializes in one particular discipline. So it could be content, data, digital, PR, social. It's okay if you do a bit of everything, but if you specialize in one particular area, or that's your main remit, then you can enter this category instead. Any questions on those ones before I move on? Yeah, one here. Yeah, I would just say that can count, but just make it abundantly clear what your specialism is. Because if the judges are going through your entry form and one of them asks the other one, all right, what is these guys' specialism? And if they don't know the answer to that, then you're probably on the back foot. So that is okay, but just in general, with all of these things, make it abundantly clear that that is the thing that you're sort of focusing on. Best on social. So for this one, this is all about social media. It's not about one tweet or one post on TikTok that happened to go viral. That particular piece of work could enter, say, Campaign of the Year or another category, or even could be included in this. But this is sustained excellence across multiple social media channels across the entire year, or a prolonged period of time. So it might be a season or a actual tournament or something like that. But it's not for a one-off piece of work. It's for sustained excellence across multiple social media channels. This was won by Chelsea women last year, who obviously had a great year on the field and off the field. Campaign of the Year, again, fairly self-explanatory about what that is. Obviously, it's one of the big awards of the night. We've had some great winners of this over the years. The key thing I would say here is first of all, we got a lot of entries for this category, and we do get a lot of entries in general. And I'd say, like last year, so we had 35-ish entries. We had a shortlist of like 6 or 7. So there's a lot of really good work that didn't make the shortlist even for this one. And the way you stand out is just please make sure that the business impact is clear on this. You can stress how sort of creative and amazing the campaign was, but a lot of them are the same. But please make sure that you include the business impact and the commercial returns. That's probably the thing that will get you over the edge, because no matter how good and creative your campaign was, there's a lot of other ones that probably are the same as well. So that would be the one thing that I would call out as a watch out for this one. Partnership award. So this could be a partnership between 2 organizations or multiple organizations. Again, to my earlier point about the specialist agency, you need to make it very clear who are the entities that are partnering. Because if the entry form is one brand and they're talking about all these different partnerships that they have, that's probably not what we're looking for here. It needs to be clearly defined that it's this entity partnering with that entity, or if there is 3, then that's okay as well. But just make that abundantly clear, because if the judges are a bit in the dark about it, again, you're looking at a category with 30 plus entries, is probably not going to do so well. Event of the year, I'm going to call out here the fact that this is for sort of professional elite events. So this was won by London Marathon last year. It gets entered by a lot of the bigger events in the UK. So that's kind of the focus of this one. Fan engagement, again, fairly self-explanatory. So go on this question here. Yeah, sorry, go on. It's okay if it's not in the UK, providing it's delivered by a UK entity. And that's generally the case across most of the categories. So if it's a piece of work that you're entering, if the piece of work happens in a different country, that's okay, but it needs to be a UK-based entity that's delivered the work. If it's an agency in Spain doing a piece of work in Germany, I mean, that's our awards isn't the right place for that. But if it's your organization doing something in a different country, then that's okay. So there needs to be some kind of UK element to it, essentially. Any other questions on this? Okay. The Fan Engagement Award, I guess this is fairly self-explanatory. Nothing has changed on this one, really, from last year. So if anybody does have any specific questions, then happy to answer them. But if not, I will move on to, similar to Hospitality and Experiences, it's a new one we brought in last year. We had some great entries on that one. And that is for any organization that's delivering a hospitality program or an experience. So it could be a variety of different things there. But if you've got any questions on that, then please do ask. So the next one, so I'm kind of going to take these next three sort of in a bundle together, essentially. So I guess some of what I say might be stating the obvious, but it's worth just clarifying. Environmental Sustainability Award. So this is any organization that has a program or initiative that is specific to environmental sustainability. So I know that could be blurred sometimes with social impact and local community, ED&I, but that category is specific to any environmental issues, causes that an organization is doing. But on the flip side, the Test Agile Community Award is for any local community, ED&I, social impact initiatives that an organization is doing. So the difference between the Purpose-Driven Sponsorship Award and these two is that this could be environmental or it could be social impact, but this is where a brand is sponsoring another entity, probably a rights holder, but not always, where in that sponsorship, it's sort of got purpose at heart, or the key deliverable is something environmental or social impact driven. So hopefully that's clear. And it could well be that these two things double up. You could enter the same thing in here as over there, but for this one, it has to be clear that this is a sponsorship, because again, if there's a lot of entries, if the judges are seeing this thing and while it's not really a sponsorship, then again, you're on the back foot immediately and maybe that will fit better in one of these two categories. Any questions on these three on that? Hopefully that's quite clear. In fact, the first year we did this, it was a bit unclear, but as the years have gone on, there's less questions and I think people get it, so I won't be as patronizing next time. Professional Services Team of the Year. So this was called Advisory Team of the Year last year, and based on the companies who entered and some feedback that we got, we changed it to Professional Services Team of the Year. It's essentially kind of the same thing though. So this could be like, lawyers, insurance companies, architects, consultancies, wealth management, finance, so that kind of like sector. And then the next two I'm going to take together, Sport Team of the Year, Sport Organization of the Year. We split these up for the first time last year. So the kinds of companies that, don't read into the examples I'm giving, by the way, but I'm giving these as an example only. Sport Organization of the Year, we're kind of thinking these will be governing bodies or leagues, federations. Teams will be teams, clubs. So to give you a couple of examples here, the RFU might enter Sport Organization of the Year, but they also might enter the Red Roses for the Sport Team of the Year. Yeah, so that's like the delineation there. And there's a couple of other similar ones to that. There's a few sort of grey areas and anomalies, but if I use Man City as an example, the way we see this, City Football Group could enter Sport Organisation of the Year, but they could enter Man City's men's team or women's team, whatever, into Sport Team of the Year. So hopefully that's clear. Like, we often get a lot of questions for this, and if you're unclear, just ask us. Like, we're happy to have a conversation, and it may well be that it's not 100% clear cut, but we'll give you our opinion on it. Something else to clarify on the criteria here is that on-field performance is a factor, but not the key deciding factor. So it does play into it. It plays into it more in Sport Team of the Year than it is Sport Organisation of the Year. But it's not the defining factor. If your team didn't win anything, then it doesn't mean that you haven't had an absolute stormer of a year and you're not going to win Sport Team of the Year. There's multiple other factors that go into in the criteria. And also success is relative. It might well be that a team that is usually in the relegation zone has done absolutely amazing and has qualified for the Champions League. And do you know what? That is successful. They haven't won anything technically, but that is still a successful year. And providing that their other stuff, their off-the-field things match up as well, then that would be considered a very successful entry. Any questions on that before I move on? Okay, talent campaign of the year, not too dissimilar to campaign of the year, but this is where usually an athlete or a sports person is a core part of the campaign. So this was won last year by 3 Mobile and Chelsea, where Vinnie Jones was the talent. And I'd say if you're looking to enter this category, the key thing to make clear in the entry is why that talent was chosen and why that talent was relevant to the campaign. There was lots of entries last year in the judging session where the judges would say, well, if you took that talent out and put her in or him in, then it's the same thing. Whereas when we look back at the 3 Chelsea one, there was a mental health campaign. There was a reason why Vinnie Jones worked for that. And there was lots of other ones that made the shortlist where you think, yeah, that talent absolutely works for that campaign. So that's probably the one that we're looking to get out of that one more than anything else. Other than that, like the same criteria applies to the campaign of the year in terms of everything else I mentioned. The Tech and Sport Award, this hasn't changed from last year, but I'll just reiterate what I say all the time, is that it doesn't have to be a new piece of tech. This isn't an innovation award necessarily. It's not always a new piece of tech that's being created. It could be utilizing a piece of tech in an innovative way to drive new results. So that is something to keep in mind if you're looking at that particular category. Then these 3. So I've looped these in together. These are all 3 new categories. Now, last year we had short form content and long form content. We've got rid of those now, so that the length of the content isn't relevant. And this is based on feedback from the judges and the people who entered last year. In fact, we've changed these 2 categories every year based on feedback. So if you tell us this is wrong, then you need a clear alternative. And I want to see a page with the pros and cons, yeah? Deal? But I'll explain these. So we're no longer going with short form, long form, so it could be any length. But I would anticipate that sports content of the year would probably be shorter in length than the sports documentary of the year. And I would have thought that the sports content would be more kind of like social ad campaigns, social videos, ad campaigns. Again, that isn't the criteria, but I would imagine that's the majority of the things that would be entering that category. Sports documentary, I think you all can understand what a documentary is. It could be an hour-long standalone piece of content. It could be a series of 10, 30-minute episodes. It could be a social media series of weekly 6-7 minute pieces of content. So that's why we've got rid of the time on this one. But as long as it's a sort of behind the scenes style, fly in the wall style documentary, then that could live in that particular category. Again, like if you're unclear, then please speak to us, because we have tweaked with this a lot over the years. And sometimes there's no 100% clear-cut black and white answer, but we will use our judgment to advise you accordingly. Then the sports program of the year. So this is for the broadcast of a sort of professional piece of content. So whether it's gone across sort of TV or streaming services. So we're kind of looking at shoulder programming, live events, highlights content. So it could be use something that's probably unlikely to enter, but like BBC could enter for Match of the Day, for example. So like those kinds of things. Or it could be a production company entering their particular broadcast of a major tournament or a league or an event itself. So these are the kind of things that we are expecting to see in here. So the thing entering sort of entity will be the program, although it could well be the rights holder entering it, or it could be the production company entering it, but it will be, you're entering the actual program itself. Yeah, so hopefully that is clear on that front. Any questions on this before I move on? Let me check if there's anything else I missed off here. Okay, so we have the Kickoff Awards, which we brought in last year. So those of you that were there, you'd be familiar with what this is. So before the main ceremony starts, we hold the Kickoff Awards during the drinks reception. So it's up in the mezzanine where the VIP reception is. So it's like a separate ceremony that's not broadcast on the big screen. And this allows us to sort of incubate new categories, so experiment a little bit with new areas of the industry, new emerging trends, new areas which we think will be big in a couple of years' time. So we had them last year. There's a couple of new ones in here which I'll mention. AI in sport, I guess you could say it's not too dissimilar to tech in sport really, but obviously such a hot topic at the moment. We wanted to create a category specifically for that, put it in the Kickoff Awards to see what we get. And to clarify again, similar to the tech and sport, this isn't necessarily just AI companies entering this. It could be any organization that is using AI in a really smart way to drive results. Then we want to see that stuff. Like we want to see what's out there. We want to celebrate this stuff to the rest of the industry. So that's what that award is about. Just to clarify something on the Kickoff Awards as well, even though it's not on the main stage, but you still get a trophy, and it costs a bit less as well. So the cost to enter the Kickoff Awards is reflective of the fact that it's not actually on the big stage itself. Best newcomer, kind of like startups essentially, but it could be any organization that is less than 3 years of age. And there is a cap as well on the annual turnover of £5 million. So if you're less than 3 years and you've absolutely smashed it, then we can have a chat about that. But it's less than 3 years, 5 million cap. And there's some great new companies, agencies, tech companies, even rights holders, competitions, some great stuff out there. So we want to see who's out there. Content Creator of the Year is a brand new award. We've got absolutely no idea who's going to enter this or if there's anybody who's going to enter it. But again, it's such a hot topic in sport at the moment that we want to reflect that. And we want to see who's out there, and we want to recognize the best content creators out there. So it could be podcasters, YouTubers, TV presenters. So I guess if you represent talent, then you may have somebody that you would want to put forward for this. The Education Awards, so this was in there last year. We've tweaked this one to be more specific to the actual course or initiative or program. So it could be a university, it could be a football club, it could be any entity that has a sports-focused course, initiative or program. If it isn't a university, they're not entering the university in its whole entirety. They've got to focus on a particular faculty or course specifically on that one. Health and Performance Tech, brand new award that we've brought in. We have seen that the health tech space is thriving, and our sort of viewpoint is that this is going to be an area of huge growth over the next 3 to 4 years. So we've decided to create a category in here to see who's out there creating new tech for improved performance and health. Again, no idea who's going to be entering this, but we've seen lots of great businesses out there. So hopefully we can give these people a platform, and we think this is going to be an area of growth in the years to come. Sport Podcast Award. So we used to run the Sports Podcast Awards as a separate awards program. We're not doing that this year. So this is quite simply, if you're a sports podcast that's either UK based, or again, to my earlier point, it needs to have some element of UK-ness to it, or whatever. It could be any sport, any podcast related to sport, basically, isn't it? And whether it's a huge one with loads of listeners, or anywhere through to some chap in his bedroom who's not got a huge amount of listeners, but if he's done something that's remarkable and impressive, then get it entered, and we'll see how it stacks up. Then the Wellness in Sport, we brought this in last year. Again, it's part of, some of you may have seen that we launched a mental health platform for the sport industry. We wanted to create an award to sort of amplify that, see who's doing great stuff out there related to either mental wellness or physical wellness. And the more we talk about these things, the more we highlight them and recognize them, then hopefully that'll encourage more people to do the same. So if you do something in your organization that you think needs to be recognized and shouted about, then please do consider entering it. Or even if you see other companies thinking, that's amazing that they've done that, then let us know. Like, we want to hear about more of this stuff from a content perspective as well as from the awards perspective. So this isn't strictly for sport organizations as well. So this could be other companies who are using sports to improve the wellness of their employees or the communities that they serve. So that would be eligible to enter as well. And then the last two things I'm going to talk about here are, these aren't things that you can enter. So there's two sort of new awards. One, the Business Moment of the Year that we brought in last year. So this is to recognize the big deals that happen in the industry. Whether it's a merger, an acquisition, a big partnership, those are like sports business news that when you read it in the Daily or wherever, when you read it, you think, shit, have you seen? And you say to your colleagues, shit, have you seen this? Like that. So those are the kind of things that we want highlighted here. It was won by last year by the 100. All the different acquisitions and investments that they had made. So this isn't one that you can enter, but I'm raising them here. If you think of anything that you think, it should be that, then just let us know. You know, we will open for nominations, not for a while to be honest with you, but I'm just raising it here, that if you think of anything, then do let us know. And then a new one we're bringing in this year, Creative Moment of the Year. So this will be very similar to Campaign of the Year, but where I said earlier about the importance in the Campaign of the Year, that the numbers are right, that you need to demonstrate a strong business impact in that campaign. But sometimes we don't want the creativity to get lost in sport. You know, it is a business award, so you need to demonstrate that return. And also it's great that there's, say, purpose involved in the campaign, but actually we want to celebrate the creativity. So this is an award where people won't be entering. Again, we will ask the industry to nominate a few creative moments of the year. Again, you think, oh shit, that was cool. You know, that kind of moment, you know. So it's a bit of an experiment for us. We're also experimenting with, we're probably going to be doing a live vote on the night. No idea how that's going to go, but you've got to try these things. So again, over the next couple of months or so, if you see anything that was shit hot, that was really cool and creative, then just forward it through to us. That's something that we will be highlighting on the night. And now I'm going to bring up Tom to talk about the best practice from the entry form. Thanks.
You can actually nominate already on the website if anyone sees anything particularly interesting. So yes, I'm going to talk you through entry form best practice because if you have entered any awards before or our awards before, you'll know that you can have an incredible year, deliver an amazing piece of work. But if your entry form is badly written or you are missing off information, you are not going to win, basically. At the end of the day, and it happens every year. We see fantastic entries. We know this is good, but spelling mistakes, repetition, missing financial info, and that's never going to go down well with the judges. So I'm just going to run you through a few things. I say the same things every year, but it's because the same things crop up every year. So apologies if I'm repeating myself a bit, but I'll just take you through some of the top line stuff that crops up all the time. The other thing to say, sorry, just before I get started, is there's loads of resources on the website, and we try to link to them as best as possible, but I've written a bunch of articles over the year where I've collated all of this feedback. So I'll just briefly take you through some stuff, but I would advise going to the website and having a proper read. So the first one is objectives, and that they must be measurable. It seems so obvious, but every year we see a couple of entries where the judges read them and they go, how will I judge this based on its performance? And you don't know because there are no numbers attached to it. Second thing, the results have to marry up to the objectives. And I would go as far to say that you should order them in bullet points. Give us 3 objectives and 3 results and make sure that the order of those things is exactly the same. We've got the judges themselves have a lot of words to read. So if you can make things as clear as possible, that stands you in good stead. Dylan's kind of already mentioned this already, but excuse me, it's to not fudge any numbers. The judges are experts in their field. They're experts in the category that you are applying to, and they've seen it all before. And I think quite often, Dylan was talking about transparency. There's no shame if we're talking one of the content awards or a campaign of the year. There is no shame in saying that you paid talent or you used ad spend to reach your numbers. So just don't try and hide them. And anytime the judges are starting to question how you reach the number and it's not explained, that's less time that they're talking about your award. And if there are two entries that are of kind of equal merit, where one is super transparent and clear and obvious and they've got all of the numbers in front of them, then it's only going to go one way when it comes to actually judging and declaring a winner. The business impact, you don't have to be a big company to win this award. Don't be put off if you're going against a big brand, a big rights holder, a big agency in your space. The example I always reach to is PTO a few years ago, won Best on Social. Absolutely no budget, nothing at all. They paid cameraman 10 grand or something to go and film to people. But they had an incredible social strategy using their athletes' profile to kind of drive awareness and drive growth. And the gold standard here, with a lot of the campaigns at least, is to demonstrate some sort of ROI. Now, that's not always possible, but certainly going beyond surface level metrics awareness. If you can kind of drill down and prove that you're getting close to that, that business impact, that bottom line, that's always going to go down well with the judges. Financial info, Dylan's mentioned this already as well, but don't be afraid to hand it over. Again, a bit like the transparency, you know, if someone is judging 2 awards side by side and one has all the financial details and the other doesn't, there's only going to be one choice. All of our judges sign NDAs, everything is confidential, nothing gets past the room. Content categories. So this was a bit of an issue last year. We've changed the fields. Basically, it became clear that it wasn't always obvious what the content it is that we're supposed to be judging, like multiple links, multiple video files and that. So we've just tidied it up a bit. Our preference is that you upload directly to the platform, like give us your video file if that's what we're judging. But equally, if you can't do that for whatever reason, just make it super clear. Like quite often we'd be deciding should we be judging this trailer or the long form or the cut down or whatever. So yeah, just make it very clear, and clarity throughout the entry is really important. Overlap in other categories. There is a lot of overlap between the categories, and you can be unlucky on the day. So if you think you've got an amazing campaign, maybe explore entering it into multiple categories, because it would be a real shame if it didn't win, it wasn't recognised. We can kind of advise on maybe the categories that you might want to look to. If you are going to do this though, it's important to change up your entry a little bit to make sure that it fits within the new category. Like quite often people just don't change the words and it doesn't really make sense, and that's not a good thing to do. Just on the entering multiple awards, if you're an agency and you're thinking about entering Agency of the Year, Specialist Agency of the Year, and your work is shortlisted or winning in another category, that's going to go a long way to when it comes to the Agency of the Year judging. Entry form stuff, again, so much of this, I'm repeating myself. We'll try and write in plain English, like don't assume that anyone has any prior knowledge of your entry. Like quite often you can get caught up in marketing speak or some hashtag that no one knows, or product name or something like that. If anyone is confused at any point when they're reading your entry, that's bad. Less can be more. You don't have to write the word limit. Don't repeat yourself. Don't include superfluous information. Like there's no need for it. Again, like the best entry is often like super concise, super legible. Use bullet points, highlight. I don't think there's that much formatting options in the entry form, but whatever you can, just don't stick everything in bold, obviously. Supporting evidence. There's loads of fields at the end of the entry form to put in PDFs, images, video, whatever it is. Now, the judges are not necessarily obliged to look at that stuff. It's mostly done on the written information. However, if they fly through your entry, if they will need a bit more context, if this is something that's going to bring your entry to light a bit more, then use it. There is no harm in including stuff like that. I think go visual. Images, no one's going to read a repetition of your entry in a PDF, but just give us some images, like give us a feel for what it is. There's loads of words.
I'm just going to jump in on one bit on that actually, is if you attach like a, 20-page deck, obviously we're not going to go through every single page of the 20-page deck, but signpost it. So say if you're in one of the fields and say, see page 14 of the supporting documentation for more info, then the judges will actually go to page 14 and see that. Say it's a graph or an image or whatever it is.
But make it page 1.
Yeah, or that, yeah. So just like, but signpost it like in your entry form. If you want the judges to read a specific piece of your sporting information, just signpost it. Basically, just makes the thing a lot easier.
Yeah, but I've seen loads of times this has gotten an entry onto the shortlist or won. The judges are reading it, they're not really understanding, and then they see like the Kickoff video, and that's made the difference. Don't ignore the tooltips. So we've included a bunch of these on the entry form throughout the years. Little suggestions on how you might want to complete a field. Don't ignore them. As I said, go to the website, read up on that. It definitely does help. And use the resource at Sport Industry Group if you have any questions. We're here to help. We're here to encourage as many entries as possible. These are the judges, some of them from last year. All big hitters, probably recognise a lot of the faces or names. I think we have like 60 judges every year that we mix up, something like that.
Yeah, more than
More,
that, yeah.
80. They are all hand selected to be experts in the categories that we have open. 4 judges per category. Take it very seriously. It takes fucking ages to do. There's like 5 judging days. There's 3 in the office. 2 was 1 at Coots, which we're very pleased that Matt's here to host it every year. And then there's 2 Agents of the Year kind of visits and stuff like that. So it takes a long time, take it very seriously, and we take the integrity of the awards very seriously as well. So in every room we have a representative from EY, and they know the result before we do. So it's impossible for us to influence it in any way. And yeah, you can be rest assured that the integrity of the awards is like, without question. I think that's everything on the judges. Upcoming milestones for the awards and everything else that we've got going on in Sport Industry Group. We've got a packed calendar. The first deadline for entries is 4th December. This will come around real fast, I'll guarantee it. So this used to be like the actual deadline, but inevitably no one submitted any work before the deadline. So
please don't leave it till the Wednesday night, the 3rd. Before
Don't do it. It became real pain in the arse to try and harangue everyone to enter, and no one did it. So we opened up extensions. These are paid for extensions, and the reason we did it is to encourage you to submit early. It's not to try and make an extra £100 or whatever it is that we charge. But yeah, it really helps us. We have a lot of work to prepare for the judging in January. Is it January? February? January. So yeah, just make sure you get them in on time. Start thinking about it now. Go and speak to the people in your team. Gather all the resource, do the video, whatever it is. Start thinking about it now.
So that's it then. Thanks for coming along today. If anybody needs any more information on anything after this, we'll be sticking around today for a little bit. But Anthony Cooper, who's looking at the back, do you want to show your hand, Anthony? Please email Anthony as your first point of contact. Obviously, if you know any of us, we're happy to chat at any time. But Anthony's the go-to man for the entries for us this year. And you're welcome to stay around for a bit. We've got drinks, we've got snacks, and we'll be around if you've got any questions. But other than that, thank you all for coming. Good luck with the entries, and we will see you all soon. Thank you.
Cheers.